Members of the Kenya Defence Force have arrived at the Democratic Republic of Congo's Goma airport as fighting between the army and M23 rebels forced hundreds to flee. The soldiers are part of the East Africa Community Regional Force, their commanders say. The primary focus is still on diplomacy. M23 rebels have staged a major offensive this year, seizing territory and sparking a diplomatic row between the DRC and Rwanda. So what is the role of regional bodies to quell that tension there? Let's talk now to Dr Emmanuel Matambo. He is an international relations expert. Dr Matambo, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on the SABC News channel this morning. So for the benefit of our viewers, I think let's just start there. How did this conflict begin and how did we get to this point?
Good morning, Chriselle, and good morning to your viewers. Thank you for inviting me. The conflict between Rwanda, the current crisis between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo could be placed in history right up to the end of the genocide in Rwanda in 1994, when some of the perpetrators of that genocide fled to what was then Zaire and is now the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Rwanda has always had the intention of trying to make sure that they get those remnants of the genocide perpetrators from the Democratic Republic of Congo back to Rwanda. So that is part of the reasons actually that sparked the first Congo War, when then the leader of Mobutu Sese Seko was still in charge of Zaire. That actually, the operation from Rwanda actually led to his ouster, to Mobutu Sese Seko's ouster afterwards. But then, obviously, the situation did not subside, and it led to the second Congo War, when James Kabarebe, who was of Rwandese origin, was fired as a minister of defense now, when the Congo was under Joseph Kabila. What complicates the situation is the organization called the FDLR, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Rwanda, which is actually mainly a Hutu organization that the Rwandese government accuses of receiving support from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And of course, the grievance from the Democratic Republic of Congo comes from allegations that the Rwandese government is supporting the March 23 movement, known more popularly as M23, because it is a movement that has historically been led by Tutsi-speaking Congolese nations. So that is just a general background of a crisis that seems to have come to a head now in the last couple of months. We have seen the escalation of a diplomatic row leading to the expulsion of the Rwandese ambassador from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So that's just a historical context that has led us to where we are right now.
Yeah, but what is the current situation? I think about some 10 hours ago or so, I remember reading a report about the former Kenyan president and the Rwandan leader basically saying or agreeing for a need for the M23 rebels to cease fire and withdraw from the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. What do we know about that? And I mean, what is it going to take for this to be reality?
Well, it is going to. The conflict is going to be protracted for a number of reasons. One of the reasons, obviously, is the lack of trust between Kagame and President Paul Kagame and President Felix Tshisekedi of Congo. They met in Angola in the earlier part of the year, trying to solve the issue. Obviously, that did not happen as there was another breakdown. And then obviously, recently as well, the president of Congo, President Tshisekedi, had an interview with the Financial Times in which he refused to rule out the possibility of all-out war with Rwanda. So that just shows that despite the massive efforts that the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, is making, there will have to be a lot of give and take from Rwanda and the DR Congo itself. The East African community has sponsored some talks that were supposed to end on the 13th of November. But then we have seen that the situation continues to escalate, and that is because the two leaders, the two sides themselves, do not trust each other. So I do not see that there is any durable change or durable stability that could be brought about by the East African forces that have arrived in the Republic of Congo. Obviously, there are a lot of different parties involved, both recognized parties like such as MONUSCO, for example, the United Nations Organization for the Stability of the Congo, there's the East African Community, and by default, obviously, SADC will have to be involved, and the United Nations, and the African Union as well. But then those are just components of recognized players in the conflict. Yeah. On the part of unrecognized or non-diplomatic players as well, there have been a lot of groups, a lot of amorphous groups, some of them under the FDLR and some of them under the M23 that have been wreaking havoc. So trying to build a durable trust, a durable peace amongst all these disparate groups will really be a tall order.
I know that Uhuru Kenyatta has been part of, the talks in mediating peace talks between the DRC and the rebel groups. Are we seeing any success, to that? This has been ongoing, and there doesn't seem to be, the reports certainly that we're getting is that there seems to be more advancement by these M23 rebels in different territories which they've taken over.
Yes, Uhuru Kenyatta, as I previously said, has really made some commendable efforts, so to say. But I'm afraid, up to this extent, there has been very limited success in that particular area there, and that is because of not only the advances that the M23 has made, but also instability on the part of Felix, or on the part of the Democratic Republic of Congo as well. I think they have ceded a lot of ground, and that is because there hasn't been a lot of trust between President Tshisekedi himself and President Paul Kagame, because conventional wisdom, even from the United Nations, has it that M23 is receiving a lot of succor and a lot of military and material support from the Rwandan side. And for as long as the Democratic Republic of Congo does not convincingly persuade the Rwandan side that it is no longer supporting the FDLR and it is no longer working in concert with this group, members of which are actually accused of having perpetrated the genocide, then we'll see that despite the commendable efforts of players such as Uhuru Kenyatta, the conflict and the crisis will continue unabated.
I mean, what role should regional bodies, for example, like the African Union, be playing to try and find a solution to this ongoing crisis?
Well, first of all, they have to work in concert. What is happening in the Congo is a transnational conflict involving about 4 countries, because Uganda, Burundi, and the DRC and Rwanda have been historically involved in that particular crisis. And then these are countries that straddle different regional bodies such as SADC, COMESA, and the East African Community. So there has to be synergy. This is not another debate. The Democratic Republic of Congo recently joined the East African Community. So now it finds itself as a member of both SADC and the East African Community. So if there has to be a regional response at all to what is obtaining in the Democratic Republic of Congo, then it will have to require or summon the agency of at least 2 regional bodies in the form of SADC and the East African Community, because what is happening is of a transnational nature, as I said, and it is just the same as what is happening, for example, in the Cabo Delgado province of Mozambique, where one regional actor on its own, acting on its own, cannot really have any chances of success.
Why such regression? I think it was in 2013, I'm not sure if I have my year correct, was when the M23 rebels had signed a peace deal and you had some of those fighters integrated into the DRC army. You'll correct me if I'm wrong there. Why have we seen such a regression in terms of this conflict, given that we're actually seeing an escalation of it now, if we look back to what actually happened back in 2013?
You're absolutely right there, Chriselle. After it's found in 2012 and when it started its insurgency in 2013, it was pushed back and some of its members were integrated in the Congolese Defense Force. But obviously, there was a lot of bad blood, and the M23 members actually accused the government of President Kabila, Joseph Kabila, then of negotiating in bad faith. And if you look at the instability of what has been happening in the region itself, especially in the eastern part of Congo, anyone who was paying attention to what was happening in 2013 could have seen that what was happening was just a fleeting success, to say, and that it was bound to be shattered at the later stage. So as long as external players such as Rwanda are involved, then the situation will continue unabated.
All right, Dr. Emmanuel Matambo, an international relations analyst, talking to us, of course, about the advancement of the M23 rebels there towards Goma in that ongoing conflict. Of course, members of Kenya's defense force also having arrived in the DRC's Goma airport as a fighting between the army and the M23 rebels has forced hundreds to flee.